You alright there, ladies and gents, how's it going? Today in this video I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the brand new Drift Ghost XL Pro. This is a camera that I've just got my grubby mitts on. I've paid for it myself, so it's not a sponsored advert or anything like that, and quite possibly you might be able to tell that by the end of the video.
Keep that butt rubber side down.
So the Drift Ghost is, like I say, their brand new action camera. It's a side mounted generally, or you can top mount it. It's got a rotatable lens, bit of image stabilization, can do 4K. Yeah, it's a bang up to date camera, pretty much. It's as good as you'd expect for the price point. It is 250 quid, which is a lot of money still. It's certainly more money than I'd want to waste. So I definitely think it's worth getting into these things when you're spending your money on kit, to at least have your eyes open and know that you're not going to be spending your money on something that's not going to do what you want it to do. So the Drift Ghost XL Pro has got a cracking form factor. I really honestly like this. I love how tough it feels. It's really quite solid. Because it's got an internal battery rather than a removable battery, it's all bolted together. Nothing moves around particularly. It definitely feels like if you were to have a little spill, this would still be recording after that accident. So if you're buying this to use as a dash cam, it probably is the camera to get. I really honestly mean that. If you want this for a dash cam, it is the camera to get. It's got a 7-hour battery life at 1080, which is generally all you'd need to be recording at for insurance purposes, to record anything happening out on the road, if that was what you're using it for. But it does do 2.7K and also 4K if you want higher resolutions. It does them at varying FPS. The 4K I think is 30 FPS, 2.7K is at 60 frames per second maximum, and the 1080 I think goes up to 120 FPS, might be 100, I can't remember. So yeah, you've got varying frames per second and varying resolutions, which obviously make a difference to the file size that you can record. At 1080p in 30 frames per second, I think it is, Drift quote that this has got a 7-hour battery life. That's cracking, that is. That really is. That's the best battery in the field, and I think this is the best dash cam style helmet mounted camera out there at the moment because of these specs. You can stick it to record at 1080p 30 frames per second and it will record all day long if you're out on a big day's ride. Perfect. What more could you ask for? And then should the worst happen, you've got a nice little record of it. You can actually purposefully set it up as a dash cam as well, so it will just fill up the memory card until it's full, and then it will start again from the other end, from the beginning of the memory card. So you know that you are going to have a record of anything that goes wrong should that happen. That's grand. That's exactly how a dash cam should work. I'm a motovlogger though. I'm not interested in a dash cam for that sort of use. I want a helmet cam to record my rides, that I can narrate, that I can talk about the things that are going on in the world, in my brain, things that will annoy a lot of people because they hate motovloggers. And what's going on with you? Naughty computer. Thank you. Weird. But yeah, so I'm a motovlogger, and I got this because I really wanted this to be the perfect motovlogging camera. I'm recording this on a GoPro Hero 9. I've also had in the past a Hero 8, 7, 6, 5 session. I've had quite a few GoPros over the time. I even had a GoPro 3 when I first had my little play at motovlogging many years ago. I never put any of them on YouTube though. So I know a little bit about GoPros. This is my first Drift. I've not had one of these before. I do know that they've got a little bit of an iffy reputation for their later cameras. So this was supposed to fix all of those negativity bits. And so far I've not had any reliability issues with this, none. I've only used it a handful of times, but it's worked, it's recorded, the footage looks great. Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that they've ironed out all the bugs that were the problems of the last camera and produced a fantastic little camera here. I really honestly, I hope that they've done that, and I think that they have on my limited use of this camera. That's only to be seen over time, whether the reliability issues and firmware and stuff stands up to the job. But it's tough. It's a tough little camera. I think it will. It looks great. So yeah, that's some of the positivity things gushed over about this camera. But like I say, I'm a motovlogger, so what I need to be able to do is to put this onto my crash helmet and easily and simply attach a microphone to it. I also would quite like it if it was waterproof at that moment in time too. Whereas with the GoPros, even with the media mod and all that sort of stuff, it's not waterproof officially when you strap on an external microphone. So that's a downside to the GoPros, all of them, including the latest greatest Hero 10. This is magic. It comes bundled with this lead, which has got a 3.5mm jack on the end of it, and there's a little O-ring there. On the bottom of the camera there's normally a plug in there, but I've taken that out, and you just push that in and screw it round until it nips up. Don't need to do a big leaning on it, don't need to torque it down to 1,000,000 Newton meters, but that's in there. Now that's waterproof. The camera is still waterproof with a microphone lead, and then you just plug in a TRS 3.5mm microphone into the end of that. Brilliant. This is all really looking superbly positive as well, isn't it now? I've got you here, I'm making you think that this is going to be amazing. It's not awful, but it's not amazing. Under the cover here, you've got a USB-C port, and you've also got your memory card. It will take up a 256GB memory card, so you know with that 7-hour battery, you're not going to have to faff around with memory cards either. It pretty much should brim that memory card by the time you drain that battery. Having a USB-C there is quite handy. It means you can plug it into your PC, and it will then you can take off the files or put files on it if you'd ever want to do that. That is great. It's better than the GoPro on that front. You can't, although you can plug a USB-C into a Hero 10, it doesn't recognise it as a memory device, so you can't then transfer the videos off of a Hero 10 without removing the memory card from it, which is a pain because you've got to remove the battery and all that sort of stuff. Whereas this, you just plug it into your PC and then you can access all the files on there. I really like that. GoPro, take note. With that shut, it maintains its waterproofability. Waterproofability, is that word? Who knows? And yeah, so you've got a decent sized memory card, you've got a 7-hour battery, you can easily plug in a microwave, a microphone, and it remains waterproof. Also on the front of it, you've got your lens here, which you can rotate around, which means that you can either have it flat like that, say if you wanted it on top of your crash helmet and look a bit like a Teletubby, or you can mount it on the side of your crash helmet and rotate it around 90 degrees to maintain the lens being the correct way up. You can also use this to correct any angles. So a lot of crash helmets, they're not got a flat piece on the side to mount your camera to, so it quite often will be tilted like this, and that means you can correct that. Stop it. Noisy computer. Yeah, so that'll allow you to adjust for any tilts of your head. I mean, mine tilts naturally to the right anyway, so I have to wind it round a little bit to correct for that. And in the clips you'll see that I haven't quite managed to get that dialed in just yet, but I'm working on it. I am working on it. So far, everything's brilliant. Rugged, tough, easy to use buttons, just 3 buttons up there, and they're very easy to use. You can use them with gloved fingers, including winter gloves, and you can feel which button you're pushing. You only really need to push that one when you're out and about on the bike. The other one's for changing your settings, and you wouldn't be doing that with it on your head particularly, I wouldn't have thought. It's got a little display on the back as well for helping you set it up, although I believe the Drift app makes it a lot easier for setting it up. That's quite a small screen. I need my glasses really to read it, but someone with better eyesight than me would not have any problems at all. All pretty positive. This buckle mount thing here, that is adjustable, so you can rotate it, so you can have up and down angles like that with the camera, and being able to adjust that is brilliant. The only thing you can't do with the camera is tilt it either way like that. But Drift do a pivot mount which would allow you to do that. Unfortunately, they're out of stock at the moment, which is a shame because that would make setting up this camera a hell of a lot easier. When I first got it, it is my first Drift, so I've had to set up from new a way of mounting it onto my helmet. It's taken me 3 drift mounts, the sticky pads for 3 drift mounts to get it even close, and I'm still not there. So I'm going to have to waste a 4th one. It's not the end of the world, I'll just get some more 3M tape, but I'm going to have to waste a 4th one to adjust it again in the hope of getting it so it's pointing where I'm looking as opposed to off to one side. There are some helmets which actually have a camera mount position on them. I can't remember, it's a Nex crash helmet. I was considering getting one, but I've not heard fantastic reviews on the helmet. Wouldn't it be great though if crash helmets adopted these GoPro mount options, because they know we're doing it, so many of us are, and having a nice flat mount where you can stick a camera on the side or on the top even would be brilliant if that was available on more helmets. So everything sounds brilliant at the moment, doesn't it? It's got image stabilization. I record at 2.7K on my GoPro normally, and if I'm dirt biking or green laning, I'll be at 30 frames per second, or I would be if you could. You can't do that on the GoPro Hero 10 currently. You can't use 30 FPS and 2.7K. How stupid is that? But I do either 25 FPS or 60 FPS if I'm out on the road, which is brilliant. I love the GoPro Hero 10. This has got up to 4K, we've already said that. To get the image stabilization to work on this though, you have to be either at 50 FPS or 25 FPS if you want the 2.7K resolution. If you drop it down to 1080, you can have your stabilization at more FPS ranges. I'm not quite sure why they've done that. It doesn't make any sense to me, but they have. Same with, I don't know why GoPro doesn't allow you to have 30 frames per second on the Hero 10 at 2.7K. It's madness, it's stupid. I just don't understand it. I don't understand why. Maybe there is some real reason why they haven't. But yeah, so you can set this up to generally the sort of things that you would want it to be at for motovlogging in the current era. I think most people are realising that a lot of the 1080 footage is now just doesn't look quite so good on YouTube. That's mainly YouTube's fault. Off the camera, it looks fine, but YouTube actually compresses 1080 footage with a different codec than it does the 2.7K and 4K videos. I'm not going to go into the ins and outs of that, but if you upload at 1080, it will look worse than if you watch a 2.7K video in 1080. Yeah, so most people now are wanting to either upload at higher resolutions, or they are recording at 1080 and then upscaling it when they edit it and pretending it's a larger resolution file to get it looking better on YouTube. And that's fine. That's absolutely fine. That's great. So the image on this is okay. It's not as good as the GoPro Hero 10, but I don't think there is an action camera in the market that is as good as the GoPro Hero 10 for video footage. So I don't count that against this, because there's other cameras that are more expensive and other cameras that are cheaper that don't have as good footage that this produces. So yeah, the price point of this, 250 quid, I wouldn't expect the video quality to be the same as it is on the GoPro Hero 10. Everything is still sounding like this is a good bang per buck, a good action camera for the motovlogger, and I really want it to be. Talked about the lens earlier and the stabilization. Without stabilization switched on, this has got a 140 degree field of view, which is quite narrow anyway. That is quite narrow anyway. My 360 cameras have got 180 degree field of view. Obviously they're 360 cameras, so you've technically got 360, but each lens has got 180 degree field of view. This has got 140, so it's 40 degrees less. But if you turn the stabilization on, and as a motovlogger I like to have the image stabilization on even on a helmet camera, because it softens down the movement, because our eyes are always darting looking for hazards and all that sort of stuff when we're on a motorbike, vibrations and bumps and things like that. It does help smooth it out. Our heads are very good gimbals, but they're not perfect, and just having that little extra stabilization from your action camera really, I think, smooths out the footage really nicely. So it's fantastic that they've bundled it on this. The trouble is how they've done it. To make it work, and it's not their fault, GoPro do the same, they have to crop the image for that stabilization to have room to move around. It's not like the lens floating in here like it is on the Sony. Sony's got a mechanical stabilization, whereas this and the GoPro, they're all electronic stabilization. So what it has to do is it's got that view, and then it windows it a little bit smaller, and then it can move that window about in the bigger picture to maintain a stable footage, which means that they've cropped it down from 140 degrees down to 115 degrees to maintain stabilization. That's effectively like looking through a telescope. If you look through a telescope at something that's moving, it looks like it's moving pretty slowly, when really it's doing 30, 40, 50, 60 or 70 miles an hour. And it's the same the other way around. You're filming something, the horizon up ahead of you, the road up ahead of you on this, doing 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 miles an hour, or faster if you're going faster where you're allowed. Because it's zoomed in, you get no sense of speed. None whatsoever. It's the equivalent of putting your great gran on a bicycle compared to filming Max Biaggi on a Ducati or whatever. I can't remember what he used to ride. I'm not into the bike racing particularly. But you get what I'm saying. If you compare side by side the footage from a GoPro Hero 10, ignoring the fact that the Hero 10 has got better video quality, that's a given at the moment. It's just the best camera for video quality. But ignoring that and just looking at what you can see, for how wide you can see around you, the sense of speed, the sense of movement, the sense of action, using an action camera like GoPro is, and the drift is supposed to be, is crazy. It's crazy. A friend of mine, Captain Cranky, he sort of said to me as one of his concerns about these and how he noticed it on previous cameras, that he said it just makes it look like you're in slow motion, and I hadn't realised quite how bad it would affect it, and it does. It's crazy how bad. What I'm going to do is, in a second, is put up a video of this, and also with my GoPro, both cameras on my helmet at the same time. On my helmet, I've got the side mount for the drift, and I've got the chin mount for the GoPro. So I'm going to put up a video with the GoPro mounted on there, drift mounted on there, with them both in 2.7K at 50 frames per second. So at the best this can do with stabilization. And you tell me which one looks like I'm riding a motorcycle or which one looks like I'm riding a bicycle as far as the feeling of speed. They're both going exactly the same because it's the same footage from the same bike ride in the same place. Having that wide angle lens makes it feel like you're there. This makes you feel like you're looking through a telescope. Also, GoPro has what's called super view, where it tricks you effectively, or doesn't trick you, it manipulates the image. It records a video in 4:3 ratio and then stretches it at the sides, just at the edges, to turn that into a 16:9 frame size. And that just gives you a humongous sense of movement around the sides. It's quite lovely. It's magic and it's a trick, but it makes it actually look like the ride that you were on, rather than looking through a telescope at someone else riding a really slow bike. I was amazed, I really was. Anyway, here's that footage. Okay, so we're riding along at 30 miles an hour. Which one looks faster? Riding along at a steady 40 miles an hour. Which one looks faster? Sitting at 50 miles an hour now. Which one looks faster? pretty steady 60 miles an hour now. Which one's faster? And here we are at a nice steady 70 miles an hour. Which one's faster? So as you can see from that video there, that short little clip, it's magical, isn't it? It's magical what a camera can do. People say the camera doesn't lie, but it can manipulate the truth. It can manipulate what it sees and trick you into thinking that it's something different or it's something else. Maybe the drift is good for people who want to ride really fast, because if the police looked at the footage, if they couldn't see the speedo, it would look like they were going really slow. So for those of you that ride at a head-banging 120, 130 mile an hour on the road, not wanting to get nicked on your YouTube videos, maybe this is the camera for you. But for those of us who are recording at generally legal speeds, this makes it look very unexciting. And we want the audience to be engaged in what we're doing. And we also want to be flattered by the cameras. We don't want them to make it look like we're an old lady riding a little 50cc or moped. We want it to look like we are at Valentino Rossi. And sadly, this doesn't. I don't know whether this camera has much use for me. I've got many other cameras that aren't much use for me. I really should sell some of them. It's not a bad camera. There's nothing wrong with it. But it doesn't do what I want it to do. It's the same with my Moto Guzzi. Those of you that followed my channel, I used to have a Moto Guzzi V85 TT, and I absolutely loved that motorcycle. It was beautiful in my eyes. It felt lovely on the road. It was gorgeous colours. It sounded great. There was so much character. You really felt like you were riding a motorcycle when you were on it. It was wonderful. But I wanted an adventure bike I could take on adventures, that I could take off road. And it just couldn't do that. So however wonderful that bike was, it wasn't the right one for me. So I sold that and got an Aprilia Touareg, which is possibly what I was riding on when I was doing these videos. I haven't recorded that one yet, so time travel. But anyway, yeah, so that bike wasn't suitable for what I wanted it for. It doesn't mean it was a bad bike. And what I'm saying here doesn't mean this is a bad camera. It's just not suitable for what I want for it. Which is why I kind of go back to what I was saying at the start. If you are going to be making videos as a motovlogger that you want to be exciting and dynamic, then possibly this isn't the camera for you, unless you turn off stabilization and gain a little bit more field of view. But I do think that even 140 degrees is still a little bit narrow. So yeah, who is this camera for and who is it designed for? I think Drift wanted it to be for us motovloggers, but with the features that they've got on it, they're tailor-made to be an absolutely fantastic action camera. It will record what you need it to record. It will record all day long. It's solid as a rock, so I reckon if you were to come off, it would survive. The only thing I don't like on the design, and this is something that Phil480, another YouTuber I follow and friend of mine, he mentioned, is that because the lead comes out underneath for the microphone, for those of us that are using it, it does mean that it could potentially catch on your shoulder, or in my use, like green laning, you could get branches come along and snag into it. Whereas if they put it coming out the back, I think that would be better. I'd actually be absolutely fine with that being underneath or on top and this coming out the back. The buttons up here are brilliant, but there's different ways they could design it. But that's a tiny little niggle. And if you're using it as a dash cam, you're quite possibly not even going to need to have this coming out of here, because you're not going to have in-helmet microphone. You'll be just recording your rides for insurance purposes. So this would all be sealed up and you wouldn't have this to worry about at all. But if you are motovlogging, just be mindful of that. That could get snagged on something, or it could dig into your shoulder. I don't think it would be distracting because it's only a microphone lead. It's not like a dagger, but it's something to think about, and maybe in the future they might move it to the back. So that's my thoughts on this camera, with a little bit of video footage to back it up as to why I think this. I'm not hating on the camera. It seems reliable, it's solid, it does what it does, and it does it at a good price. 250 quid for an up-to-date, as far as 4K and stabilized video footage, that's grand. In comparison, GoPro Hero 10, this is 350 quid, and then you've got to spend out, I reckon, at least 100, maybe 150 quid more to make this a motovlog ready camera. You need this for a start. This is the microphone adapter. So excuse the microphone on the end there, it's all just taped together, I haven't taken it apart. But you need this microphone adapter. You also need to replace the door on the end here with one with a slot, so that you can plug in the USB-C from this. You've got to find somewhere to put that, so it means you've got to have Velcro on your crash helmet and have it stuck to it. You need to put blue tack around the end here to seal it up, so it's got a slight chance of surviving if it pours down with rain like it does all the time in the UK. So you're looking at 500 quid, effectively, for it to be able to do the job that this does for 250 quid. It does it better, but it does the same job. 250 quid or 500 quid. If you're on a budget, get one of these. Even as a motovlogger, you've just got to put up with the fact that the narrow lens will make it look like you're going slower than you are. So it might mean, to make it look more exciting, you might have to go faster. Don't do that, that's bad news. You get stop speeding and all that stuff. I've never sped, officer, no, I haven't. I don't do that, I'm a good boy. Another thing about this, you have to put it on the chin because you look stupid with it on the top or on the side. Whereas this, you put it on the side, it's very, very discreet. Now, before we close out in this video, I should probably show you what it looks like on the crash helmet and also what this one does. So this is my Nisha Enduro Carbon. I like it because it's carbon fibre, so it's really lightweight. It's great for motovlogging because we're adding a lot of weight to our helmets. It's nice to start off with something that's light in the first place. It's actually a very noisy crash helmet, but it comes with pin lock. And they do a dark visor for it as well. I've got one of them. The only things I don't like about it is because it's carbon fibre, it's quite noisy because it's not very much sound deadening. The peak on it is quite flimsy, so that rattles about a bit if you get like turbulence off your screen. So that vibrates around, which adds noise. But other than that, I really like this crash helmet, and it wasn't stupidly expensive like a lot of the main name crash helmets out there. That doesn't mean I'm recommending this for you, I'm just stating what this crash helmet is. Now, attaching the drift is a piece of cake. The hardest part is getting this in the right place to start with, to have it pointing in the right location. Currently, it's not. I need to bring it just a little bit further forward, and then I think it will be pointing where I'm looking. It's very difficult when you're sticking these on to get it in the right place, because what looks square isn't. But I'll get there with it. So all you do is you just slide this onto there until it clicks, and then just push the legs out to make sure that they're engaged properly and it's not going to come off. I do this in the same way that you think about putting a link on a chain, or the motorcycle chain, those split links. The way I see it, if I have it where I push it in this way, if it catches on something, it's not going to drag the camera off unless it hits something hard enough to actually rip the whole mount off, and then you probably come off yourself anyway if you've hit something that hard. Means you're less likely to lose the camera. Others might think it's better to have it the other way around, so if it hits something, the camera comes off and doesn't take your head off with it. Entirely up to you, but I want my 250 quid to be secure to the side of my crash helmet. A lot of people put lanyards on as well, so I mean, it's not like they're saving themselves by doing that, they're adding stuff. With this, that just goes around to my microphone and clicks into place there. I do hope you can see okay, the light's not brilliant in my living room here. And I've fed the microphone through a side vent in the helmet into the cheek piece and chin piece there. It's one of the neatest setups you can have on a motovlogging helmet. It's brilliant, it really is. It's nice and neat. It's tucked in quite close. With the mount on it, you can rotate it so that your head position, you can set it so that this is still upright, and then adjust the rotation of the lens to take any tilt of your head out. And my next door neighbours are playing music really loudly. I love it when they do that. Hopefully it's not being picked up by the camera. When I'm doing it with my GoPro, I've got the mount on here stuck on with Sugru. I know that some people don't want to do any permanent mounts like that, but it's my helmet and I like that. It's nice and strong and secure. It's not going to go anywhere. Slide the GoPro on there, pretending I've changed the door on this for the one with the window. Then you've got to plug in the microphone adapter to the camera, and then you've got to find somewhere to attach this brick of microphone adapter. I normally have a little bit of Velcro here, so it just sort of sits here, and the microphone tucks in under the chin curtain down there. I've taken all of that stuff off because I had hoped, that this was going to be a little GoPro replacer. I thought I was going to be going with that because I thought it was going to be the be all and end all. I thought it was going to be fantastic. Sadly, it's not for what I want it to be. So I've got to rejig all of this and find a way to get that microphone back out from that hole there. But yeah, so that's how I've got my helmet set up, and that's how I had it in those clips where I was comparing the larger field of view from the GoPro and chin mount versus the side mount with the drift camera's narrower field of view, making the footage look like it's really, really slow. Another thing to consider when you are buying a camera for motovlogging or insurance purposes, whatever you want it for, is where you want the camera to be mounted. I prefer a chin mount because you can see more of the motorcycle and you can see more of your surroundings. So when you're turning your head left to see something over there, with this it's less effective because all of your helmet's blocked out a lot of the view, whereas this you've got equal amount in either direction. So I prefer the chin mount. I can also see the indicator on the back of the GoPro screen, so I know it's still recording. I can see how much battery's left in it if I squint and open the visor and stuff. So for me, this is a great setup. So for me to have already unrigged everything in the hope that this was going to be the camera that I was going to switch to did mean that I was very serious about this being my next motovlogging camera. I love its form factor, and I was prepared to sacrifice the view to have such a rugged, brilliant camera. But sadly, the field of view lets it down for me. That's the only thing that's stopping me using that as my number one camera. I don't mind that this has got better video footage. I'm fine with what that pumps out. It's just that field of view. So Drift, if you're listening, I don't know why you would be, but I am sure you probably do look at some of the reviews that come out, but I'm a very small channel and independent, and you've probably never heard of me other than the emails we had on the ordering of this, and I'm imagining most of that was just a machine I was dealing with as opposed to a real person. If there's going to be a Ghost XL Pro 2 or a future camera, this is brilliant. This isn't. Fix the field of view. Give us a wider lens. It's not a lot to ask, and I bet it wouldn't cost a lot more money to do. I don't care about super view per se. That's a GoPro thing. I know Insta have tried to copy it in a different way. Yeah, they've not. What they've done is made it look stupid. But Insta 360 can learn from GoPro. Ghost, Drift, you can learn from GoPro too. So if you are thinking about one of these, take what I've said into the back of your mind and think about it. Work out whether the field of view, slow-mo feel to the videos, lack of attachment to the videos is something that you can put up with versus the cost of not. 500 quid, remember, versus 250. You could buy two of these for the same price as one GoPro Hero 10 with a motovlogging setup, and then you put one on each side and then you'd be able to do your looking left and right to show everything off. And you can sync them up. You can join the multiple drifts up in the settings, I forgot to mention that, which is another wonderful feature. So if you do use multiple cameras, you link them all up, press start on one, and all of them go. All of them start at the same time. Fantastic. They do a remote as well, and all sorts of other accessories. So anyway, I'm not hating on drift. I'm not hating on the camera. It doesn't do what I want it to do. Shame, but lessons learned. If you're after a insurance dashcam style thing, that's for you. That is, I think it's perfect for that, and it's perfect for a motovlogger on a budget. But you might, on occasion, be better off just getting a second-hand GoPro if you are on a budget, maybe a 4, because they're easier to put external audio with. But then you're losing your stabilization on a Hero 4 and earlier. It's a shame. I wanted to love it. I wanted to love it, and I kind of do. I kind of do love it. I just, that lens. Right. I hope you found that interesting, informative, and useful. If you are thinking about getting one of these, or if I've put you off, I'm sorry, and I'm sorry to drift, because it's a good product. It's just not the right product. Anyhow, if you like this video, if you like drift cameras, if you like GoPros, if you like me sitting on the floor on a table I dusted purely for this video, if you like coffee and you are prawn to be wild, give this video a little thumbs up. And if you don't like my comments, you think I'm talking absolute rubbish, feel free to give it a thumbs down. I don't mind. I've got thicker skin. But if you didn't like what I said, don't like what I said, disagree with what I said, please drop in a comment below explaining that, because then I can go, oh, actually, yeah, you've got a good point there. Otherwise, I can go, yeah, you're talking rubbish. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't ever be rude to you. You are my viewers. But if you like the video, really do give it a little thumbs up. I would very much appreciate that. And like I say, drop in a comment, either positive, negative, don't mind. But yeah. Anyhow, you ride safe, take care, and I shall catch you all in the next one. Bye-bye for now.
Gonna keep that bud. Rubber side.
Yeah, cold coffee. Should have drank that.
Hey, no, you gotta keep that bud. Rubber side down.